Welcome to Pressplay, Greg.
Cheers, Vinit. Thanks for inviting me. Exciting new venture you've got here.
Thank you for jumping on to our second podcast on this platform, which aims to share experiences, thoughts, and ideas from professionals and experts making the moves in the online video and OTT businesses, not only in APAC, but also globally. A disclaimer before we jump in. Greg and I worked together earlier when I was at Brightcove, a NASDAQ-listed online video platform. And, I would like Greg to introduce himself, but I can tell you this, that he's very fond of India and is a fan of Jugaad. So with that very brief introduction, I would like to ask Greg to do an introduction about himself and how he got to Brightcove. And so Greg, you can take that one.
Cheers, Vinit. Thank you for the intro. Very happy times we had working together as you built the business in India. So who am I? So I'm currently living in Singapore. I've been living here for 10 years. I came to Asia, firstly moved to Hong Kong with McCann, actually. I came as an IT guy, product managing and doing business analysis for the advertising agencies and media businesses. At that time, 2006, it was very common for tech people to get brought into new conversations about digital. Facebook was growing around the world, and the customers of the advertising agency really wanted to understand, what were the trends, how people were moving forward. So over a period of time with McCann, I ended up in a tech strategy role, and I suppose that feeds most into content relevant to this conversation is that I worked with our global telco business. We had a technology catalyst team that worked in strategy for global telco. And that was tens of millions of dollars of billing for McCann, and really helping telcos with that transition from voice SMS into what do they do with data? How do they get people excited around data? As part of that, I worked on the launch of the chat app Line mostly across Asia, but globally as well, and helped, as part of McCann World Group, help some media companies start to understand digital. I did take the whole board of a major TV station out of Southeast Asia on a walking tour of Tokyo to help them understand, at the time, digital payments and mobile centricity. So, I really at McCann, I was doing a lot of that, and working on the strategy side of things, and really wanted to, and left McCann to try and work closely with the product side of things. So I was consulting for a while with media companies, and I really did notice the growth in OTT and the opportunity. And really, I sought out Brightcove as the market leader in the space and joined them at the beginning of 2017. After a number of roles and kind of mapping the growth and changes in OTT, I really help our customers build businesses with video, whatever their goals.
Awesome. The customers in India who we have met together always remember you as the media guru, and who could merge nuggets and stories from the advertising world and apply them to the media and OTT space. So, I have personally learned a lot from those experiences and sharing those ideas back and forth with you. So, it's been 4 years plus now at Brightcove. And, since in the last 4 years, what have you learned? How have you seen the industry evolve?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Brightcove is not that old as a company. I think we launched in 2004, so delivering delivering video over the internet is, it's well proven. This is not, it's not bleeding edge technology. But, if we narrow this down to OTT, it was 2007. I don't know what was happening around 2006, 2007, but in January, the launch of the iPhone happened, or it was announced, the launch of the iPhone, and also Netflix announced their Watch Now service, both in January 2007. And then over the course of that year, both of those services, became available. And both really critical and real landmarks in OTT history. We know that mobile centricity is a big part of OTT consumption in Asia, and really that would not have happened without the launch of the iPhone. But really, you need to fast forward from them till actually around 2015, 2016. I was an advisor to the then Casbah. I'm now lucky enough to be voted through Brightcove to be on the board of the Asian Video Industry Association, which was then the Cable and Satellite Broadcasters Association. When they were really starting to, trying to get to grips with some of my friends and colleagues there said, Greg, help us understand this digital landscape. Because what was happening? What was happening was Hotstar had just been launched in India as part of a synergy around Star's acquiring of the IPL rights. And then in 2016, Netflix went global. I'm not sure how many markets they were in at the time, but at that time they went to 130 markets, which really was when we first legally saw Netflix launch. So really, I would say that it's kind of around that 5 years for us in APAC that OTT has existed. And who would have thought that, fast forward those years, Disney has bought Hotstar in that time. And just a few weeks ago, announced that they're shutting down pay TV channels, to focus on digital delivery of their content. And we've gone from, is this internet thing really going to work, to actually global businesses, historically leaders in this space, placing digital delivery of television content at the first and foremost pillar of their business. So the biggest trend really in the OTT and video delivery has gone from a complementary service to this major pillar of business. Yeah. So I think the reality is that video delivery has only got better in that time. Bandwidth has dropped significantly. India has gone from being the most expensive place to buy a gigabyte of bandwidth to, I think, the cheapest now in the world. So a lot has happened, but really it is some fundamentals have happened in terms of it's more affordable. Everybody's got a device now that you can watch TV on, and the content companies have accepted that this is the move forward. So a lot has happened, and it's and just a super exciting place to be, because everyone that we meet in our business is a pioneer in the space. They're changing television delivery, and they're solving problems which our kids will take for granted.
Love it, love the response, Greg. I think the sheer excitement in your voice when you spoke about the journey came across really nicely. So appreciate that information. I think the viewers will take those nuggets. It's very knowledgeable stuff. So thank you. In terms of the Brightcove experience and the case studies, I'm sure over the last few years you've seen some of the major brands launch their video services. Do you want to help the audience understand what those brands did with their video strategies and Brightcove? I think in the form of a case study, just a short snippet of what they did would be great.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so let's look at the bigger brands. We at Brightcove have supported a number of these organizations globally and in region. And I think the bigger players globally is an interesting segment. The big boys from the US and the global level is of interest. But I think the area that Brightcove supports the most is what's quaintly called local content. For us, these are national brands. These are TV, either TV channels themselves, or they are the production companies and production ecosystem players that own the content or produce the content that are, that all of a sudden have found new ways to share or allow their fans to embrace and enjoy their content. In the context of the big players, the Netflixes, the Disneys, etc., these are seen and somewhat talked of in a way which is I wouldn't say disrespectful, but it's not really acknowledging the position that they have in the hearts of the consuming public in these local markets. And that's really a place that Brightcove excels. We have built technology to help these companies go to market in an affordable way, we're definitely in a position now to be able to support those kind of organizations in a way which makes sense to them. Just to give some context, Netflix spends $1 billion a year on their technology. That has got nothing to do with any content. It doesn't even include their CDN costs. And they report it slightly different in their, they don't talk specifically about tech, but that includes all of the amount that they spend. Organizations such as the ones that we deal with would spend much less than that. If you're looking at $150,000 to $250,000 a year to manage, depending on content, you're looking at that level, and really in the minds of the customers to compete on your phone with Netflix. Is it going to have all the bells and whistles? No, but that's the position that we stand in now, which is quite phenomenal, really, if you think about it. So what does Brightcove do? Brightcove, there's a couple of great case studies. One which is local to this region that come to mind, and another one which is a global niche content player. So I'm not sure whether you're familiar with Mongolia. Mongolia is not very big. Well, actually, it's quite big from a landmass point of view, but there are only around 3.5 million Mongolians. Population of Mongolia is around 3.2 or 3.5 million, and there are a few 100,000 overseas Mongolians. Mongol TV came to us. They are the #1 content creator in Mongolia. They take a lot of global formats like The Voice, Shark Tank, etc. And they said, look, we want to go OTT. We're a TV company, but how can you help us? And they've been using our turnkey application solutions and running this with a couple of people and servicing a significant audience of paying consumers on mobile devices and overseas on big screen devices for a number of years now. And that for me is, if they can do it at their scale, sure, their goal is not to compete with Netflix, but at the end of the day, they're serving an audience and they're doing it well in a way that's keeping their audience happy. So I love and I'm very proud of what we're doing with Mongol TV, and the fact that they run that whole platform with just a few people is just amazing that they can be doing that. Another one is Revry. Revry is I was on the AVIA Philippines conference this week, and there was a group of folks there talking about LGBTQ content, and they're saying it's not a genre, it's not a niche, it just happens to be who people love. But I think from a content point of view, it still sits into that niche spot. And Revry is a customer that again, with a relatively small team, uses the Brightcove turnkey solution and is able to service a market globally. And I'm just, every time I hear about what the Revry team are doing, it just really excites me, because you see a group of people who are passionate about serving an audience with great content, and they're able to do that at scale with a pretty small team. They are putting their content, I'm not sure whether we'll talk much about free ad-supported TV streaming, or FAST as it's known in the US, but they are on every single platform. They are distributing and working with ad partners to monetize that content, and they are seeing audiences arrive at their door globally from all over the world. And I love that. I love the fact that the gatekeepers of television have been broken down, and now anyone can find, if there's an audience big enough, and it only takes a few thousand people for you to at least clear your tech costs, and then a few thousand more if you buy your content well, to start building a business. And then it's up to you to be passionate about marketing, passionate about your content, and to use, to stop worrying about the tech. I think I forget who said this, but tech becomes great when it disappears. And I think we're at that point now where look, delivering everything on the internet always has its problems, but the reality is we're getting to the point now that you can spin up a service and reach an audience and choose your business model in a really easy way now, and I'm really proud to work with those guys.
Nice, amazing. I think the Mongol TV example can be very inspirational for some of the regional content owners in India, for example. Mongol TV might, in terms of population, there are states in India that might have a bigger population than Mongolia. And that is where the opportunity is to not only cater to an audience in your country, but also overseas. So I think thanks for that. Thanks for sharing two great examples, Greg. Shifting gears a little bit, everyone and their friend and their mother and everyone's talking about this AT&T and Discovery, whether it's a move or merger or demerger or spin-off. What are your thoughts on what's happening in that space, in that world? Because it's taken the whole OTT and content conversation to a new level of monies and content and people and organizations. What are your thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's when I first joined Brightcove, actually, Scripps was a customer, and Scripps got bought by Discovery. AT&T has been on a shopping spree a few years ago and acquired a number of content titles and assets. The reality is that in the US, because of what Disney have done, and because of the need to show the stock market growth and size, then the US, the streaming wars are definitely going to see more and more of this. The reality is that pay TV delivered way above expectations in terms of margin profitability, and that expectation still exists within the content players in the TV world in the US. And I think there has to be a level set on that. But this is what they're looking for. They're looking for, how do we get to that level of profitability again? And, when you've got private equity funds available and other ways of financing these deals, then these will continue to happen. I think we've seen Amazon also news this week that they're going to buy MGM for their platform. My understanding of AT&T is that they are spinning out the HBO or Warner Media brands, and they will merge into a single company with the Discovery brands. The shareholders of AT&T and the shareholders of the current Discovery company will become the shareholders of the new company. And it's scale. I think that puts the new business, which will probably emerge in a year from now, probably about double the size from a revenue point of view of Netflix, with actually a much more diverse content spread. The Scripps, the Discovery content has everything from food channels, etc., all the way through to the the HBO content. So really, in terms of a content portfolio, content library, it becomes a really, really exciting proposition. So I think for us in APAC, this while we might see some of our local players getting bought, The reality is that there is there's going to be this show happening in the US for some time to come, I think.
Yeah. I think some of the content owners with their own OTT platforms are hoping for a AT&T equivalent buyout in this part of the world. But we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I think what this shows is that telcos are not a great place for content companies to live. There's a very different business model. Telcos take a very big capital investment and then they amortize it and make a margin over it for the period of that G. So we're heading into 5G. We've just done coming out of 4G. I think I was talking to there was an interview with the CEO of Globe, Ernest Koo, the other day, and he's still got 2G networks running. So he's got 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G running at the same time. So he has to shut down. He was talking about shutting down, interestingly, not 2G, but 3G first, closing that off, and then concentrating on 4G. Even mentioned 6G. So they have a model which is, let's invest a load of capex, let's amortize it and make a margin on it. The content business doesn't work like that in a linear way. So there's different expectations. Engineers and creatives work differently. Now, being a shareholder, there's definitely a synergy, and obviously in India with our friends at Reliance, we'll see how that plays out. But there's definitely a synergy, because every gigabyte of content that people watch, then that's beneficial to the telcos. So we'll see how that goes.
Right. Great. Thank you for sharing thoughts on that. Hot news, hot topic. Coming back to, circling back to Brightcove, I used to work there, and it's a NASDAQ listed company headquartered in Boston in the US. What are some of the challenges that Brightcove faces in APAC as a whole? When you look at APAC, it's a diverse region, arguably the most diverse region that any company has to traverse. How does Brightcove take care of those challenges, and what is the kind of people that you guys have on the ground? I think the audience would like to understand in terms of, the technology is great, but what's the team size and strength in APAC?
Yeah, there's so the technology is great. There is it's well proven that we can deliver great video experiences on any device in any connection state around Asia. We've been doing that for quite a number of years. Some years before we even arrived, that was well proven. The interesting thing is that whether you be a brand looking to market using video, or a media company looking to go to market across the digital space, is that it's still relatively new. I mean, we talked about 5 years of history there. There is not a lot of people who know how to do this business very well. And obviously we're very privileged working with so many companies that we see the successes and the mistakes that a lot of our customers make. And, we have a significant number of people across APAC, from a good team in Australia, predominantly in Sydney, but actually in other areas now. A big team in Tokyo, team in Korea, Singapore, and multiple locations in India. So what does that give us? That gives us the opportunity to talk with local market knowledge to our customers, and to feed back to the folks in Boston, where we now actually have development resources in India and in South America, to help them understand what the market reality is. And the market reality in Asia is that, for the most part, we learned to use the internet with our thumb on the mobile phones, and in tier 1 markets, they learned to use the internet with a mouse. And that sounds quaint and maybe a little bit flippant, but there's a fundamental difference when you dig into that. And delivering to Asia, where people recycle phones from a long time ago quite regularly. There was a stat just a few years ago in Indonesia that that still the BlackBerry was the most newly enabled phone on networks. So, it is a few years old that now. I don't think that's the case now, but the reality is we recycle our phones, we sell them on, and there is, older devices in market. So yeah, that's, we have a pretty big team and growing team. We've diversified our customer, the way that we have our development locations. We've diversified the way that we have our development locations, and so we have more people in not just in Boston and the US anymore. So that's an interesting situation. In fact, I noticed this week that we have an ad for, actually we've just had our new professional services person from a development point of view arrive in India this week, and we expect a lot more folks on that team to join. So that's super exciting.
Wow, that's good news. Interesting. Good stuff, Greg. And then, we spoke about a lot of things about the evolution of video and, what you do on your day job. Just to share with the audience, what does Greg like to do beyond Brightcove and beyond video? What are some of your interests, hobbies, and passions beyond the video world?
So, I moved to Asia for the challenge, and I love it here. I don't, I should be happy to admit that, I'm a geek about the Asian opportunity. I do read a lot about, what the startups are doing. Family demands take up a lot of time, but I've recently bought myself a nice carbon road bike. So I've been getting in the miles on the weekend mornings, back on pushing 2 wheels up the road, which I'm really enjoying actually. Yeah, it's great to get out on the bike.
Awesome. That explains the weight loss.
Yeah, there's a good byproduct.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. There were some really useful nuggets there. I encourage the audience to listen in, and we will be marketing this audio track on all your favorite social channels. So appreciate it, Greg. Have a great weekend. Thanks for your time.
Really appreciate it, man. Good luck with Pressplay.
Thank you.